RK's Guyana Free Media presents for human development and national development this message.
Yes, dearest and most beloved friends and families in Guyana, around the world, friends and families around the world, as I continue with this special presentation of the RK's Guyana Free Media, bringing knowledge, up-to-date information, personal opinions and views based on the reality of the political situation in Guyana and the reality of the COVID-19 coronavirus that's devastating the world and also creating terrible fear. Unfortunately, it will appear that in Guyana that some people want to make money out of this thing, and I'm surprised that the government of Guyana, in cohesion with its Guyana Police Force and the Customs Department and any other law enforcement institution, are not looking out and outing themselves for those people who are price gouging, raising a price of a little container, sometimes a third of this, to $1,500, $2,000, from $100 sometimes to $500, not this entire container, but even a third of this bottle of sanitizer, toilet paper, soap and foods. We need a serious jailing and locking up. Like when in the times of Forbes Burnham, people were smuggling and they were raising prices, and you had a little bit of flour or a little bit of cooking oil or some salt or sugar, when people of the police and the special branch and all of them and all over they were moving like thunder and lightning in league with the House of Israel to target, imprison, hurt people. Well, we don't need that kind of law enforcement, but we need proper law enforcement today. We need law enforcement that will look out for price gouging, charge them and bring them to the fore of the court, according to law order that we have, or we should be, a law and order society. It's a shame and a disgrace, to my opinion, under the guise of COVID-19, corruption is in place. For example, the Ocean View Hotel, we heard it sold. Sold for a pittance. We heard from the minister that it'll cost $1 billion to refit. It'll cost $22 million. It will cost $22 million per month. I wonder who's getting a third or 50% or two-thirds of that money, because that place was not making even $1 million a month. I know this. So you're paying $22 million a month to rent the piece of garbage, $1 billion plus, and it'll cost what? $500,000 in medical equipment, 500,000 American dollars to the minimum, or 5 million American dollars. I haven't gotten the facts straight there, but I'm hearing those figures. So I'm giving you as I get it. 500,000 US, 5 million, 25 million, and 50 million US to outfit the place medically. And it will cost many, many more billions to outfit other places. Friends and families, how did the contractor get the place? Was there any tendering procedure? Was there any kind of a tendering procedure for the place itself? Whilst there might have been urgent situation, that is the excuse for the few in power, and I'm saying not the president, nope, caretaker acting president. No, not him. We know who is behind all of this, where large sums of money are being spent. And I know that the CIA and the Americans, the Europeans, and all of them are watching and studying what's taking place. I know this. I know how they operate. Some of you may not know, but I specialize in police sciences. Well, it's a long time that I studied, but I'm always on top of it. I know how these people operate. And they know from the personalities and clandestine behavior of certain power brokers who are getting old, but they forget they can't eat this money or they can't drink it. So they're buying the properties in their friends and their families' names. Anyhow, back to that situation. Too much money is being spent. There's no signing of a contract as yet. And because it's 2 days, friends and families, they couldn't wait for the Pritchard's hospital, even though it's a hospital. They had to make a decision within 2 days. And if you read the missive from the Permanent Secretary of the MOPH, you can read the language in between and know that skullduggery is afoot. Read the missive somewhere. It's supposed to come in another presentation concerning such things. Just read and think and look at the body language. So I wish to tell you that CARICOM High Level Team, this is my talk today, will not be quarantined. And part 2 will be Freddie Kissoon's, Nagamooto's, Nagana, and Granger. Well, I don't disrespect heads of state. My parents didn't teach me that, nor did my masters in education from childhood. So I will say President Granger's grandivity. Nagamootoo's Nagana, and President Granger's grandivity by Frederick Kissoon. 2 parts. How could a man of the caliber of Moses Nagamootoo, when asked by the chair of GCOM, she tried to follow protocol concerning these CARICOM personalities that should be coming to Guyana, how and what should happen. And that man, with his outlandish spectre of a personality, would dare to say that these people have to be quarantined for 14 days in Guyana, in a hellhole that Guyana is right now. My country is not a hellhole, but it is right now because of the political depravity and stupidities that exist, and nonsensicalities and inanities and stupidities that we see pervading. How could a man like this say such things? And to compound it all, this, as I'm not trying to be rude, and I will not be, but I'll quote somebody else's word. Freddie Kissoon referred to him as Nagana. Friends, families, ladies and gentlemen, how could the man dare say Musa alayhi salam, Moses on whom be peace. Moses, he quoted to me before he got into politics with the AFC, I cannot be with the third force, because God said, Moses, come forth. So he cannot join the third force. But he did, and that's okay. Everyone has a right to. But how? That is when I got annoyed with him. When he started to campaign against his previous party and the party of his godfather, that he cannot betray his father and the philosophies of his father and so on. He decided to go. But how he could have abused and cursed and lamented in such a bombastic way that I lost total respect for him. Today, if I see him in a place that we're supposed to shake hands, I will try not to shake the hands and I will give a polite bow. I cannot shake the man's hands because he was like a teacher to us in the upper quarantine. I was never a PYU or a PPP, and I'm not, and I will never be. I'm not saying I cannot serve with them if they ask me, or with the APNO if they ask me. I'll serve with anybody as a professional. But he used to come and have meetings with us youths and teach principles and philosophy and political science. How could he have turned like this? How could he turn like this? This excuse to stay in power. Because we know if his party gets into power, he cannot be prime minister, but he will be a presidential advisor. He could be put to run a state corporation or a department, something like that. And this is why he's holding on and doing these things for the cause of juice, to get fat, I would say. Mr. Moses Nagamootoo, I'm disappointed with you. I'm ashamed that your wife and your children have not pulled you up, and that you have put yourself in a position of despicability, as if you are part of the disease to create perdition and national disgrace in this country. I am not unpatriotic, and I will never be. But I, with the soul that God gave me, and I feel no indebtedness to nobody, because if maybe favors was done, I would have felt indebted and I would have had to shut my mouth. So thank God, nothing was ever given to me or poured on me, so I don't feel no indebtedness. So I'm a free agent to speak as I wish. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. So this man was saying, yes, they have to come into Guyana, they have to be quarantined for 14 days. I mean, what is wrong with this guy? He didn't know the president would override him. And why the president overrode him? Because of the demand of the people. The people have got to understand that they are the power. They dictate the policies of government. They can hire a government and fire a government like they have done now. I told them this in the early days, and I was being castigated, attempts me to destroy and make me into a Lilliputian. But I stayed my course, and by the grace of my God, I lived. I told them about Guy Suko, that the people will turn against them like they wouldn't believe, for they did things without thought for the people, and they blamed Moses Nagamootoo and the AFC, and I knew that the AFC and Moses Nagamootoo and Ramstad could not bring the votes. So said, so done. I already spoke to you about one part which you might have seen when I predicted in 2017 that we are having a coup d'etat. Recently, Anthony Vera shared the same sentiment. And when I read my letter, only yesterday morning, I realized that I committed a great, magnificent prophecy, or maybe a vision. For what I said there turned out to be true. And I made another comment in a recording that will be shown tonight or this evening. Can somebody tell me when that will be showing?
This afternoon.
This evening, and then tonight maybe, and then tomorrow again. And in between. Friends and families. So how could he want to quarantine these people for 14 days? But where? Where? He's driving terror into the people not to come to Guyana. It's a part of the conspiracy of the state. In a government institution. In the public hospital, he means. Or public building. Or maybe in a tent. Or somewhere like that. To turn them away from coming. This is what the man intends. To fear and scaremonger the CARICOM. What a despicable thing. Then the hours would have to be like 8 to 4 or 8 to 5 or 8 to 6, which is totally ridiculous. We should be operating 24 hours a day. Finish this thing in 5 days. 3 days, it can be done. And nobody can cheat or sneak, but it's all is to imprison the mentalities of the CARICOM visitors and the observers, and to frustrate and to fatigue. Moses, I take away the title of the Arabic name Musa alayhi salam. You are not Musa alayhi salam, nor Moses of the Holy Bible. You are a concoction of something different and strange, something which has become a terror to people. You have become, Mr. Moses Nagamootoo, a disgrace to your master, Dr. Chedi Jagan. You have become a disgrace, to my opinion, to even those who might have loved you and only given you lip service, that you're near your friend. And you have disgraced Guyana. And you, Moses Nagamootoo, you have become a national shame in this country. You have departed from the realm of elegance and decency that I, as a little boy, growing up watching you, when you give your talk, when I heard during the 60s and the 70s that Moses is going to speak in New Amsterdam or Port Morant or number 63 village or 65 village, I would leave quarantine to just come and listen to you. What have you become? But it's not late. You can correct yourself. You can rebuild yourself. Do the right thing. Don't sell your soul. Don't sell your soul. Don't become, my friend, or former friend, sorry. Don't become a utensil for waste, a Miss Mary, for human waste deposits. Don't. Prime Minister, don't. Always remember, the people are the power. Today's messages are taken from the Kaicho News and be broadcasted on this, the RK's Guyana Free Media, for information, education, and reality. My life has been threatened because of these. I'm retiring from business. I'm coming out because they're using every opportunity to try to disaffect me. Some of them, there are some good people in government. There are some good people in government, very fair, very good, very honorable. So, to put the people in a governmental institution and then to have yourself overthrown with your decision is a total shame on you. Nagamootoo's Nagana and Brinja's Grandivity, Kaicho News, 21st April, Tuesday, 2020, by Frederick Kissoon. There is a serious virus named nagana, whose rampage resembles that of COVID-19. It is transmitted like the coronavirus from animals. Nagana produces the same symptoms as COVID-19. Caretaker or former Prime Minister or de facto Prime Minister Nagamootoo was probably thinking of the disease that closely resembles his name when he made 3 preposterous edicts about the foreign observers and the CARICOM team coming to Guyana for the bailout recount. First, he wants them to be quarantined for 14 days. Then he wants a medical team to survey them to ascertain if they are observing the required social distance guidelines. Thirdly, he doesn't want them at the Conklin Place after 6 because of the COVID-19 curfew. But let me make a quick point here, friends and families, that the newspaper did not say he wanted them quarantined at a governmental institution, like maybe the public hospital, maybe the mental asylum, or some place where they would be uncomfortable and in pain, worry about their homes and their families, and then another 10 days after that 14 days, my commentary there, that piece there. Now we go back to the article by Freddie Kissoon. And it's good to listen to Freddie Kissoon, for he by far in intellect and research surpasses the other political scientists that likes to write in the newspaper and has proven himself to be prejudiced for a race and a political party. This is the second manifestation of gross ignorance that has overtaken the minds, literally, of the election conspirators. I honestly believe that when this crisis is over, there is going to be serious mental disequilibrium in many of these conspirators. Look hard at the politics of any politician since World War II in any part of the world, and you will not find a parallel with David Granger. I like to say President David Granger. I add that piece in. The closest power wielder in the cabinet to Mr. Granger is his Director General, Joe Harmon. And we all know that Joe Harmon is an American citizen. That might be an advisory for those who don't know. Even though he hasn't got the official title of minister, since he had to resign because of his American citizenship, Harmon runs the Ministry of the Presidency. With that kind of state authority, he signed a contract with an American public relations firm. He defended the contract to reporters while attending an event at the Civil Defense Commission. President Granger knows what agreement Harmon entered into. The document is in wide circulation with amazing ineptitude. Granger has denied the existence of Harmon's legal rendezvous with an American firm on behalf of the Granger government. This is pitiful stuff that has no parallel in modern politics. Commentary from me. You must know that some of them are saying, well, the PPP had an organization called Mercury and they have a right to go now. But they're going now when the election is actually lost and after all of the skullduggery at Ashland's building or the GCOM's Count Center. Now they're going to try to disaffect the Count again after everything was thrown out by the courts. And when the court of public opinion is against them, they're now going and get somebody like this to say, from what I saw in the media, that if the PC government takes power, and I don't care who takes power, they can take it back too, but they must win it right and proper. That's the AFC and the APNO. But if the PPC takes power, the Russians and the Chinese are going to flood Guyana, and that's such a terrible thing for America. And as if the American State Department and the CIA and the White House can't see through the veneer of total nonsensicality and gross stupidity. Granger's grandivity, that is, he's in his mid-70s, had to instruct him that denial was not an option. Denial was only possible if he had accused Harmon of pursuing a direction for which he was not consulted. Thus Harmon had to resign. So if Granger did not know, and he hasn't fired Harmon, then to use Maurice Bishop's yard foul accusation against Tom Adams, this is a yard foul government in Guyana. My commentary. But is it possible that President Granger is being held in prison, a prisoner, by certain personalities like we saw had happened to the GCOM chair at the center of Count of GCOM when they were about to make the declaration and skullduggery was afoot? Is it possible that the president is being held ransom? This is where I put in a question mark to this presentation by Freddie Gisu. And my last point is this: in Guyana, a yard foul government. Is Granger losing it? Freddie Gisu asks. A dossier is submitted to the PR forum on behalf of his government, and he describes Granger as an American citizen. How can anyone hope to keep that a secret if it is true his wife is an American citizen? And it's possible he's an American citizen, well, he says he's not, but is that really a secret? That could be released so very easily and gotten. And maybe the American government or the embassy will release that. My point, my comment at this time. So, if he's an American citizen, he didn't know before, as we saw with the other ministers of government and in opposition and government, that they gave up their citizenship. And one such person is Gail Teixeira, who must be respected and saluted. In the same, back to the article, in the same press statement denying that his government entered into a PR covenant with an American government, Granger chastises the Guyanese people for not checking their facts when they refer to him being a US citizen. How can any president be so barefacedly inept? Not my word, I don't speak like that of presidents. The dossier was prepared by people approved by his government. Harman paid for the project. The project lists Granger as an American citizen. How, in quoting from the Harman-approved dossier, Guyanese are not checking the facts? This is not only barefacedness, but arrogance and contempt, according to Freddie Kissoon, columnist and philosopher, politician of political science and lecturer. You are described as an American citizen. Back to the article. You're described as an American citizen. And when people quote from your document, you castigate them for peddling misleading statements. Has President David Granger exhausted his usefulness to Guyanese politics? The second manifestation is Nagamootoo's nagana. Guyanese must be disturbed at the insanities cascading down from the corridors of power. After Granger's gargantuan banality, just 3 years after comes Nagamootoo's idiocy. Why would you want to have a technical team monitoring the CARICOM mission and the foreign observers to see if they are maintaining social distance requirements? Freddie Kissoon asks. Nagamootoo's pomposity is imbecilic. If he, Nagamootoo, hasn't picked up the virus and is alive and well to perambulate Guyana talking nonsense, why does he think the CARICOM team and foreign observers are suicidal that they will come to Guyana and behave irresponsibly, thus endangering their lives? My personal commentary here, and you see what I'm talking about, the man? Since he went into politics in the so-called third force, which he swore he would never be, when he said to me, and I swear by my God and my Quran, my Bhagavad Gita and the Bible and the books of Buddha and everything else here, he told me, Roshan, I cannot be a third force. I have to be a first. For God said, Moses, come forth. This same person wants the recounting hours to stop at curfew time. But any schoolboy can tell Nagamootoo that there are sections of Guyana that are allowed to work after 6. So I'm going to say, in my own words now, to Moses Nagamootoo, out of the article, my commentary, Moses Nagamootoo, there are persons like security guards, security officers, doctors and nurses, policemen and soldiers who can work after hours. So this is a national construct. This is a national dilemma. So the people can work after 6. Mr. Moses Nagamootoo. The same Nagamootoo, as head of the COVID-19 task force, and he's asking in bracket, why did they not put a medical doctor or trained health specialist instead of a mediocre politician to head the third force? End of brackets. And I go back to the article, has exempted lawyers from the curfew. So even lawyers are exempted from the curfew, because sometimes people are arrested, lawyers need to go to the lockups or to the police stations and so on to represent their clients. So what is wrong with Moses? Moses, you have lost yourself, my old friend, teacher and brother, my inspiration, a mentor. You have lost yourself coming from me. Correct yourself before you see your God. We all need to clean our state, make a heartful confession to the nation and to the people. Apologize to the people. Clean your slate properly. Not the way they cleaned Carl Greenwich slate. Clean yours properly. Don't mess it up more. Back to the article. So if lawyers can be put out after 6, if police and soldiers can be out after 6, if journalists can go to work after 6, if pharmacies are allowed to open after 6, why can't people be in the convention center touching ballots after 6? Within 4 days we have 2 more manifestations of gross stupidities from the corridors of power as night follows day. Guyana will wake up tomorrow to see another one. It is a daily occurrence. End of his article. But yes, we see a daily occurrence of gross stupidity. We saw a man that I always had respect for and looked up to, a trade unionist, making some ridiculous commentary because he became a candidate. And nothing wrong with that, because we have had Kumar Chand, who was a party and politician member of the PPP. But to go and put out a defense of CARICOM without being commonsensical or intellectual is despicable and disgusting. Ladies and gentlemen, friends of family, Guyana is in a position of perdition. Guyana is in a position of degradation. Guyana is a position of total shame.